Marvel fans, the official reviews are starting to come out for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, the kickoff to Phase 5. And oh boy, they tell a very curious tale. As I said last week in my video, the reactions are very mixed. And the Rotten Tomatoes score currently is jumping around between a 61% and a 63%. We will see where that finally comes down, I guess, maybe sometime tomorrow. But either way, I think for a lot of Marvel fans, this is just not what we wanted to be seeing today. We all wanted to be very, very excited for this movie. And so we've got to break down some of the very positive reviews and then some of the very negative reviews and kind of talk about what people are saying so that we can have the proper expectations to go into this movie. And for me personally, I think one of the reasons I'm so obsessed with the Rotten Tomatoes score and the reviews and the critical but also fan reactions to this movie in particular is because this is the first movie in Phase 5 and Marvel is on somewhat of shaky ground. A lot of fans not really pumped with a lot of the Phase 4 offerings, and so we were expecting a lot more from Phase 5 and from this particular movie. If we really do kick off Phase 5 with a movie that is at the level of Thor: Love and Thunder or some of the other poorer MCU entries, I just think that's really going to have a lasting effect on the general hype and the discussions within the fandom of Marvel moving forward. Like, this should go without saying, but it's the internet, so there's no such thing, and I'll just say it here. I'm obviously a massive Marvel fan. I want them to succeed, and I'm hoping still that I personally will really enjoy Quantumania. But again, the reactions from last week and the reviews that are coming out today are not helping me get excited for this film. So first up, let's take a look here. Here it is, 63% with 70 reviews in. And it's way freaking worse. Oh no, it is currently sitting at a 58% with 96 reviews in. And now I'm actually going to pull up two wildly different opinions on the movie. The first is from Sean O'Connell here. He says, I absolutely loved Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Better than every Phase 4 movie not named No Way Home. Tremendous sci-fi entertainment that gives Hank and Janet their due. Makes great use of Ant-Man's unique powers and unleashes Jonathan Majors. Loved. And that's obviously a very positive review. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I hope I'm on Sean O'Connell's side. And we're gonna talk more about this in a moment here, but many of you have been bringing up to me on Twitter and other places that, you know, this could be similar to Multiverse of Madness, which is a movie that's divisive. You can't deny it. It's a divisive movie. Fans were divided on it, but I personally loved it. I think Multiverse of Madness is a masterpiece. And so I'm hoping that I'm on Sean's side and I come out of the movie being like, oh, everybody was wrong. What's everybody talking about? This movie's absolutely incredible. However, I next wanted to put up this review here from Charles Villanueva, who is a writer over for Murphy's Multiverse. He says, Quantumania is the worst Ant-Man movie and might be the emptiest, most arcless MCU movie yet. It's more severe Iron Man 2, where it beats you with exposition on how Avengers 5 might play out. That said, MODOK rules. And I've seen similarly very negative reactions to Quantumania, although I will say it's so weird that he likes MODOK because almost everybody that's reviewing the movie thinks MODOK was ridiculous, a huge waste of time, and a really dumb character. So I don't know, maybe he's even trolling. And I've watched a lot of reviews. You know, we did a members only stream over on our streaming channel. We watched a little bit of Grace Randolph's review. We watched Dan Merle's review. We watched Jeremy John's review. And I've watched a lot of other reviews myself. And I think the general consensus on this movie is that it is really more about setting up the future projects than actually being its own functioning, really well put together film. In fact, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think I saw a single review that said this is an incredibly well put together movie that ties up the Ant-Man trilogy perfectly. It feels like it serves all of these characters really, really well. Yeah, that's just not out there, right? So that's obviously not something that the movie does really well. And perhaps some of the weight of the ambition of not just this movie, but what Marvel is trying to do with all of these different characters in Phase 5, 6, and maybe even 7 is really what's weighing this film down. And you know, there was this thing that Dan Merle said in his review that I thought was really interesting, where he had this self-aware moment where he had said that some of the criticism that he had for Phase before was that it didn't seem like there was a direction for Marvel and what they were trying to do. And this movie really compensates for that. And it gives him that thing he was missing, but he's yet still critical of it because it doesn't feel as good as it should. I mean, that may end up being where a lot of fans are at with Marvel, and that maybe is okay. And you know, most reviewers and people that have seen the movie agree that Jonathan Majors is great in the role of Kang, but there are a few people out there that are saying that Kang is actually a little too goofy, and that for the first outing of what is supposed to replace Thanos as this incredibly intimidating bad guy, this is a bit of a stumble. And I'm really hoping that the people that feel that way are in the minority, because it's really important for just the overall fabric of Marvel that Kang is an acceptable, intimidating, incredible bad guy. A lot of people are saying the movie's very weird, and it starts off in a really kind of bizarre way, especially when they get into the quantum realm. And I like this thing that Jeremy Jahns was saying in his review about how it's very fresh but also really weird until you get to a point where they basically all get this translation device so that they can understand everybody in the quantum realm, and then unfortunately everybody in the quantum realm ends up just feeling like stereotypical Marvel characters in a Marvel movie. And I think there could be a lot of stuff in this film that is the Marvel formula that I think really is starting to kind of wear on people. We'll get into more of this in a second because Marvel absolutely has an incredible formula. It's obviously a proven success. However, I do think that there's elements within the formula that are growing a bit tiresome, and it is completely understandable 15 years after the introduction of this universe that the fans themselves would have a maturing taste, or that their taste would change slightly. And I'm hoping that Marvel is actually able to kind of pivot and make things a little bit more serious, a little less quippy and ridiculous as we get closer to what's supposed to be this really crazy big event in Secret Wars. So where should our expectations be for this movie as big Marvel fans? Most of the people that watch my channel, big time nerds, very sweaty, absolutely love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think for people like us, the best case scenario here is that we're so intrigued by all of the things being teased and set up that we maybe don't mind that the movie itself is a little bit wonky and weird and maybe stumbles in parts and was trying to do too much. And if the speculation that comes out of this movie is really helped, and we're like, whoa, like this means this, and oh my goodness, it maybe connects here and this, that, second, and the third, I think a lot of us will probably be fine. Like, we're going to be okay, and the discussions that we'll have after the film are going to be generally positive. But here's my concern for the Marvel brand overall. You know, Marvel Studios did this kind of incredible thing, especially in the lead up to Infinity War and Endgame, where I think they had solid movie after solid movie, like a lot of very solid movies that had incredible characters that were explored in really interesting ways. And the Easter eggs, the MacGuffins, and the connective tissue was there, but I think used sparingly in a lot of different movies. If you think about Thor Ragnarok, it is a total character-driven story with Thor, with Loki, with Hulk himself. And yet it directly ties into the beginning of Infinity War and major elements even moving past that. But I believe that was when Marvel was doing things better and allowing the movies to truly exist on their own and have the connective tissue kind of be like a second offering or something that wasn't as important, even though it fueled a lot of the speculation, like that end credit scene with Thanos' ship. It's not the driving force of the film. And I know there are other examples where maybe it did get a little bit heavy, like in Age of Ultron, but I would actually argue that Age of Ultron specifically is really character driven, and we are getting all these little moments that really get paid off in the future. But you see, what happened with Marvel leading up to Infinity War was that they had done all of those solid movies and set up all that connective tissue so that by the time the hype for Infinity War was reaching a fever pitch, a lot of sort of normie fans or just casual fans of movies were able to say, hey, this seems really cool. Everybody's into this. How do I get filled in? And then they would go back and watch those other movies. And we added a ton of Marvel fans during the lead up to Infinity War. I'm sure you guys remember. It was like a global experience. It was very much something special. And it feels like what Marvel is doing nowadays in phase 4 and possibly now in phase 5 is just not to that level. And so we might be losing a lot of the casual fans that we maybe picked up during Infinity War and the Endgame time. And maybe you don't care. Maybe you're just a Marvel fan. It's like, whatever, I'm still a fan. I'm still here for it. And I still really, really like it. But me, I'm sitting here like, I'm a fan, and yet I still want all of these other people to have access to this thing that I love. I thought the time period around Infinity War and Endgame was incredible. So many new people coming into the fandom, getting hyped up and excited about all of these different things. And I think when you're a big fan of something, you want other people to like it and appreciate it so that you can have more discussions and experience it more and more. And I just think it's a really positive thing. And the opposite of that is kind of like what happened with Star Wars, where essentially you have Force Awakens come out. It's this massive, huge success of a movie, all kind of people brought in from a casual perspective to a little bit more of a hardcore perspective in the Star Wars fandom. And then you have The Last Jedi that kind of blew all of that up. And then you get to the point where now people really just aren't into Star Wars in the same way that they were back in 2015, 2016. I would absolutely hate for that to happen to Marvel, and I'm hoping that it won't. But this movie in and of itself is a massive test for how Marvel is handling all of this ambition, obviously just trying to do so many cool things and perhaps actually not nailing it on a case-by-case basis. Now, there's a wider discussion to be had here about quality control, about Disney, and about the fact that Marvel may be changing things behind the scenes. They may be fully aware of everything going wrong and have a way to fix it, but those changes are just going to take a long time to actually show up in the product. And we'll talk more about that in a live stream that I'm going to do tomorrow at 11 a.m. on our live streaming channel, where we're going to go in depth, breaking down the Rotten Tomatoes scores, talking about our expectations for the movie. So come on by for that to have that discussion. But I guess the TLDR on all of this is I still think I will really enjoy this movie. And yet I will be disappointed if I can clearly tell that this is a film that's a little bit inaccessible to normies or casual audiences and is perhaps even leaving behind more casual fans that the MCU picked up at the time of Infinity War and Endgame. That's not what I want. I want more fans, or at least to not be losing them. So I actually think there's a lot on the line for Marvel when it comes to Quantumania. And so far, it seems like a very mixed bag. But of course, let me know your thoughts about the reviews that are out there. Smash a like on this video if you liked it. Subscribe to this channel because we give away dope, nerdy things to lucky subscribers each and every month. If you want to watch more, why not check out this video I just made about new reports of an evil Iron Man from the 8th grade universe and the fact that he might be a major MCU villain.